I never thought a simple cleaner's tea could heal my heart after a devastating divorce. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was as if my world had shattered into a million jagged pieces, leaving me gasping for air, heart pounding against my chest like a desperate drum. The silence of my empty house was deafening. I felt so alone, so lost. I was drowning in sadness, broken by a love that once felt unbreakable. Mark, my husband of 10 years, had walked out, leaving nothing but an echo of our shattered dreams. Hope was a distant memory, buried beneath heaps of regret and sorrow. Every corner of our home whispered his name. The clock ticked louder, counting down the moments, and I felt like a ghost in my own life. Then, one fateful day, while cleaning out the mess he left behind, I stumbled upon an old, dusty box hidden in the back of the cupboard. Inside was a strange assortment of teas, all vibrant colors and odd scents. There was a mix with bright orange petals and a rich, earthy aroma that beckoned me like a siren-esque call. It felt inexplicably magical, like something out of a fairy tale. Tears stung my eyes as I poured the hot water over the leaves, watching them swirl and dance, alive and full of secrets. The steam rose in soft tendrils like the whispers of the past. With each sip, I could feel something shift within me, a flicker of warmth spreading through my chest. Strange, almost inexplicable facts filled my mind. Did you know that certain herbs can unlock emotional healing? That they were once believed to bridge the gap between the earthly and the divine? I had always dismissed such notions, writing them off as nonsense. But here I was, clutching a mug in trembling hands, believing in the impossible, that I could feel the vibrations of life hidden within each sip. My heart raced. Could this really be what I needed? I started to write down my thoughts, feeling every word on the page like a release, a catharsis. Each letter was a step, wading through the mud of despair toward the hazy horizon of hope, but just as I began to feel a sense of calm, an eerie thought crept in. What if there was more to this tea than met the eye? What if it held intentions that I couldn't grasp? What if it was connected to something much darker, something unleashed by my desperation? My fingers trembled. The warmth in my chest faded, and I fought against a wave of unease. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was a secret lurking just beneath the surface of this strange brew. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The days slipped by in a blur, each one blending into the next like watercolor on an untouched canvas. Mornings were a battle of will, forcing myself out of bed each time a new sun cast its golden light. I had become adept at masking my sorrow, wearing a smile in front of friends who were concerned for my well-being. But behind closed doors, the silence enveloped me again, heavy with unspoken words. As I sipped the enchanting tea, I noticed small changes, a brighter hue in my thoughts, an inclination to write more fervently. The pages of my journal filled faster, and my pen became a refuge, a way to articulate the turmoil within. I sometimes looked for Mark in the crowds, half expecting to feel that old familiar rush of joy at seeing him, but the reality was stark. He had become just another ghost, haunting my memory without permission. One particularly dreary afternoon, while I was wandering through a local bookstore, a golden-haired girl caught my attention. She was no older than 7, plucking at the spines of books and gazing with wide, curious eyes at the colorful covers. I watched her for a moment, feeling the familiar stirrings of loneliness washing over me. My hands tightened around the intricate mug I carried, the one inspired by my newfound ritual with the tea. "Do you like reading?" I found myself asking, surprised by my own voice interrupting the comfort of silence. She looked up, her eyes sparkling. "I love adventures. But I can't read well yet." I knelt down, matching her eye level. What if I read one of the books to you? Would that be an adventure? A shy nod from her was all it took to spark an unanticipated warmth in my chest. As I picked a whimsical storybook from the shelf, I noticed the little girl's smile, its innocence and unguarded nature acting as a beacon of hope that momentarily swept away the haze clouding my heart. We found a cozy corner, surrounded by the scent of old paper and wood, and as I read, her laughter rang out like melodic chimes. It reminded me of brighter days, filled with joy and simple pleasures. Maybe it was the tea or just the magic of childhood, but I felt lighter, as if these moments stolen from sorrow were stitching my heart back together, thread by thread. After our impromptu reading session, she gingerly took my hand. You should come back tomorrow. We can have more adventures. A surge of warmth enveloped me, igniting a sliver of hope I thought had long been extinguished. I'd love that, I replied, smiling down at her, but as I walked away from the bookstore, my heart fluttering with unexpected joy, doubt seeped in. Was I truly ready to build connections again? Would her innocent friendship remind me of all I had lost? The specter of Mark reared its head, questions swirling in my mind like the steam from my tea. The next evening, I returned to the bookstore, my heart racing with anticipation. A part of me felt reckless, opening up to a child I barely knew. I found her waiting eagerly, her small frame bouncing with excitement. As we began to read, I felt the shadows of my past creeping closer. Midway through the story, she suddenly stopped and peered at my face, brow furrowed in concern. Are you sad? She asked, her innocent gaze piercing through the veil of pretended happiness I wore. It was a question that caught me off guard, reflecting in her pure eyes all the hurt I had bottled up inside me. Just as I opened my mouth to respond, a commotion erupted from the entrance. I turned to see a familiar face, a face I hadn't seen in what felt like an eternity. It was Mark. Panic surged through me, freezing me in place. Was he really here, in this moment that I had carefully begun to construct? My heart raced, swimming in a mess of confusion and emotions. The warmth I had felt just moments ago faded, leaving me standing on a precipice. Would this be the moment everything slipped away, or would it lead to a surprising clarity I hadn't considered? The bookstore buzzed with energy as familiar faces turned toward the door, and my breath quickened. Mark stood there, a stark silhouette against the light pouring in from the street. My pulse thudded loudly in my ears, drowning out the laughter of the little girl beside me who remained blissfully unaware of the storm brewing within me. Is everything okay? She asked, her small hand still grasped within mine, anchoring me as waves of fear rushed over me. I tried to smile, to reassure her, but the corners of my mouth felt heavy, weighed down by the sudden avalanche of memories. The door swung shut behind him, and in that moment, time seemed to stretch and contract, warping the air around us. I caught a glance of his expression, vulnerable yet guarded, the shadow of hesitance in his eyes echoing my own internal struggle. Is that? The girl broke the silence, her voice a gentle whisper, drawing my attention back to her eager face. I swallowed hard. Yes, that's. Mark approached cautiously, his steps tentative, as if he feared any sudden movement could change everything. The world melted away, leaving only him and the ache of the past. I didn't expect to find you here, he said, a tremor in his voice that betrayed his own uncertainty. What are you doing here? My words were sharper than I intended, a reflexive defense against the flood of memories that sought to drown me. I came to pick up a book. I thought I'd check if you were around, he admitted, his attempts at casualness crumbling under the weight of the situation. My heart raced, caught in a tangled web of unresolved grief and habitually buried affection. Can we not do this now? I managed, each syllable tasting bitter on my tongue, but as I shifted my gaze away from him, I was reminded of the little girl beside me. Her innocence, her bright spirit, it was a spark of light cutting through the darkness that threatened to swallow me whole. I glanced back at Mark, caught off guard by the anguish reflected in his own expression. Who is she? He asked, looking down at the girl as if she were a lifeline tethering me to this moment. Just a friend, I said, as if that small detail could somehow shield us both from the storm brewing in my heart. The girl, as if sensing the tension swirling in the air, squeezed my hand tighter. "I'll leave you two to it, then," he said, the hurt lacing his voice slicing through me. His gaze lingered, searching, pleading for something, an invitation, an acknowledgement of shared history. But what could I give him in this instant? The weight of years hung heavily between us, and the pain of his presence nudged every heartache back to the surface. "Wait," I said on impulse, a small voice rising against the tidal wave of doubt. "Would you like to join us?" The words tumbled out before I could catch them, surprising even myself. Mark hesitated, and I held my breath, the gravity of my offer straining the air. Would he see this as an olive branch, or as a thinly veiled trap set in a moment of vulnerability? To my astonishment, a flicker of hope ignited in his eyes, and he nodded slowly. "Sure. I'd like that," he replied. For the next few moments, we became entwined in a fragile tapestry of shared space and hesitant companionship. I read aloud, my voice trembling slightly as I navigated around the filled silences. The girl stole glances back and forth between us, her innocent presence acting as both a balm and a reminder of the fractures between us, but as the story unfolded, I couldn't help but feel the weight of our collective history pressing down on my chest, turning the simple act of reading into an ordeal. And when the little girl gleefully exclaimed, "This is the best adventure ever," I noticed Mark's smile was genuine, but hidden beneath it was a shadow of sorrow I couldn't ignore. Before the final page was turned, she jumped up, eyes wide with excitement, and squealed, "Can we read tomorrow too?" "Yes, of course," I replied, glancing at Mark, whose smile seemed forced now, the light fading as the weight of reality settled back around us. As the girl darted off to find more books, silence lingered, each heartbeat echoing within. The familiar distance returned, and in this moment, it became clear that reopening the door to our past was fraught with challenges I wasn't prepared to face. I turned to find Mark watching me, his gaze now a painful mixture of hope and despair. "Can we talk?" he asked softly, the vulnerability in his tone striking across the chasm that had formed between us. With my heart racing, I nodded despite the uncertainty flooding my veins, a tumult of memories and feelings swirling into an indistinct haze. But deep down, I felt that sharp realization, the journey I thought might lead to healing was only beginning, and every thread pulled on the tapestry of our shared life was a potential knotted mess waiting to unfold. Just as I opened my mouth to respond, a commotion erupted outside the bookstore, drawing our attention. I glanced out the window and froze. The sight was shocking enough to make all the clarity I had just found shatter completely. There, among the crowd gathered outside, stood someone I had never expected to see again, a person whose presence would make my struggle even more difficult and complicated. My breath caught in my throat as I recognized a face from my past, one I had buried deep beneath layers of regret and heartache. There, in the midst of chaotic laughter and the bustling noise of the street, stood Lily, a figure I had once cherished more than life itself. Time had not dulled her brilliance, she still radiated that magnetic energy that could draw everyone in, illuminating even the darkest corners of existence. But now, she was a ghost from an old life, haunting the periphery of my present. "What's wrong?" Mark's voice pulled me back, the concern etched in his brow now taking on a new gravity. He followed my gaze, the realization dawning as it crashed into him like an unwelcome wave. "Lily?" he said, a mixture of shock and confusion slipping through his composure. I couldn't answer. My throat felt constricted, weighted down by the enormity of the moment. The little girl, oblivious to the storm brewing, returned with an armful of books, her eyes shimmering with joy. "Look! I found these," she declared brightly, but I couldn't muster the same enthusiasm. Everything felt off-kilter. "Can we go outside?" I whispered to Mark as a desperate plea for air. I needed to escape the confines of the bookstore, that one sacred place now suffocating with unspoken words and unfathomable choices. As we stepped outside, the vibrant energy of the street felt like an overwhelming tide, swaying me this way and that. I was barely aware of Mark's presence, a shadow looming beside me, as my attention was riveted on Lily, who was now engaging in animated conversation with a group of people I didn't recognize. Laughter erupted from them, bright and sincere, but it twisted like a knife in my chest, the sweetness of it bittersweet to consume. "Are you okay?" Mark's gentle voice edged its way through my daze. I didn't expect to see her," I said, trying to sound casual, but the quiver in my words betrayed me. My heart drummed frantically against my ribs, urging me to approach her, to reach out, to bury myself in the familiarity that used to feel like home. Lily turned, her gaze locking onto mine with an intensity that sent ripples of anxiety coursing through me. There was recognition in her eyes, a spark of something that could ignite both a long-buried love and a fresh wave of grief all at once. But before I could gather my thoughts, she beckoned me over, that old charm still very much intact. "Hey! It's been ages!" she exclaimed, her smile dazzling yet laden with an undercurrent of tension. "Yeah, it has," I managed, my voice barely a whisper as her warmth washed over me, memories flickering in and out of focus like strobe lights. "What are you doing back in town?" "Just visiting for a few days," she replied nonchalantly, but the glimmer in her eyes suggested a deeper meaning, a layer of complexity yet to be uncovered. Mark stood by my side, his presence grounding me in reality, yet I could feel the distance forming an invisible barrier that cried out for recognition in the face of my past. He was still there, waiting, uncertain, perhaps grasping the enormity of this unplanned reunion. "Is everything all right?" Lily's eyes darted between us, curiosity piquing as she sized up our journey together. She had known Mark long before our paths diverged, back when laughter rang freely and life felt uncomplicated. "And no, it's complicated," I stumbled over my words, sensing the tension building between all three of us. Then, as if fate decided to test my ever-fragile resolve, I caught a glimpse of a concerned figure wending their way through the crowd towards us. My heart plummeted as I recognized Jason, Lily's brother, whose presence felt like an ominous harbinger. The last time I had seen him, the air had been thick with sorrow as we wrestled with the fallout of our shared choices. "Why now? Why here?" "Lily," he called out, a flush of worry etched on his features. "Mom's not feeling well, and I can't find Dad. We need to go." Lily's cheerful demeanor faltered, and her eyes locked onto mine, searching for an anchor amid the chaos. I need to go," she said, an apology swimming beneath the surface. "But we'll reconnect, right?" "Yeah, of course," I said, although the tightening in my chest signaled that the lingering connection held both promise and danger. As she joined her brother, fading into the crowd, I felt a chasm open between my past and present. I turned to Mark, whose face was an unreadable canvas of mixed emotions, and I felt a pang of guilt knit itself tightly around my heart. "I'm sorry," I whispered, desperate to bridge the gap. "It's not your fault," Mark replied, his voice steady with compassion but tinged with pain. Before I could respond, the little girl tugged at my sleeve, her face scrunched up in confusion. "Are we still reading tomorrow?" I nodded, forcing a smile to dawn upon my lips, yet the warmth that had once thrummed between Mark and me felt chilled. The unexpected presence of Lily, entwined with the heavy echoes of memories long forgotten and the complexities of existing relationships, held the promise of upheaval, a reminder that love can emerge from warmth but also leave behind ashes of what could have been. As the day waned, I felt each small moment slip through my fingers like grains of sand. And just as I thought I might find some clarity in the noise of everything happening around us, my phone buzzed with a message that sent an icy chill racing down my spine. The screen flickered to life and revealed a name I hadn't seen in ages: Matthias, my late husband's estranged brother, the one who carried the heavy burdens of family secrets I had desperately wished were buried forever. "Can we meet? I need to talk to you about something important." The breath caught in my throat as uncertainty wrapped itself around me like a shroud. In that moment, I realized that the simple act of reconnecting with the past could open up a Pandora's box of complications I was unprepared to face. An exquisite adventure awaited, full of possibilities and haunting shadows, and just when I thought I could embrace some sense of paths chosen, life unraveled yet again. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I found myself standing on the balcony of my apartment, the cool air brushing against my skin. My fingers danced nervously over the message on my phone, unyielding as I stared into the vast expanse of twilight that felt both empty and full at once. The name Matthias echoed in my mind. His very presence had always been synonymous with secrets cloaked in shadows, the kind that threatened to unravel who I was if I dared to peek too closely. "Just breathe," I whispered to myself, clutching the railing as if it were the only thing keeping me grounded. Mark had excused himself for the evening, sensing my turmoil, leaving me to grapple with the tangled emotions now quaking within me. The little girl had been a welcome distraction, her innocent laughter like the sun cutting through dark clouds. But now, alone with my thoughts, every chaotic fragment of my recent experiences spiraled into a symphony of uncertainty. I couldn't shake off the moment with Lily or the looming presence of Jason, an unwritten chapter of my life that might now carry consequences I hadn't anticipated. My heart ached as I recalled the way Lily had looked at me, that moment when her joy sparkled like the stars in the sky, then faded as swiftly as dusk. We were both echoes of former selves standing at a crossroads defined by choices neither of us could completely grasp. For every glimmer of hope, there was a shadow of despair, a dangerous cocktail I hadn't signed up for that I inhaled deeply, trying to grasp some semblance of peace, yet I felt suffocated by unanswered questions. What did Matthias want? Did he know about the delicate threads that had begun to weave through my life again? Would he drag me back into painful memories I had carefully tucked away, leave me exposed and vulnerable beneath his gaze? Finally, the weight of it all became unbearable and I sent a brief reply, "Okay. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Where?" I pressed send before I could fully comprehend the implications of my choice. Just then, the gentle chime of my front door pulled me from my reverie. My heart raced. It was late for anyone to be dropping by. I opened the door cautiously, and there stood Rosie, my neighbor, a radiant smile lighting her face, coffee in hand and a warm pie wrapped in a cloth. "Thought you could use a pick-me-up," she said cheerfully, stepping into my space uninvited but necessary. "Hey! Wow, this looks delicious," I managed, gratitude washing over me like a wave. My lips stretched into a small smile, her infectious energy providing a much-needed balm amidst my storm. "This is no ordinary pie, it's my special recipe," she laughed, nudging me playfully. "And you need to eat something. What is going on? You look like you've seen a ghost." As I sat with her, sharing slices of pie and cups of coffee, I let the warmth of her kindness seep into my bones. I spoke a little about Lily, about how turbulent it felt to run into someone I thought I could never face again, but I carefully skirted around the message from Matthias, knowing it would unlock Pandora's box, a can of worms I wasn't yet ready to tackle. "I think sometimes," Rosie said thoughtfully, her spoon tracing the rim of her cup, "you have to embrace the chaos. It's messy, sure, but it's also full of potential. Look at how vibrant things can get." Her words resonated with something inside me, igniting a flicker of hope I hadn't anticipated feeling amid the wreckage. Maybe I had been too focused on the shadows, forgetting about the dawn that can follow the darkest of nights. Rosie went on with gentle enthusiasm, recalling her own moments of upheaval, her voice rising with the excitement of triumph over despair. I hung on every word, grateful for this reminder that life could still be sweet in pie and in the company of unexpected friends. Eventually, our conversation shifted and I felt the thinly veiled sadness peel away, if only for a moment. The hues of laughter and connection lingered long after Rosie left, filling my empty apartment with the warmth of shared stories. But as the night climbed higher in the sky, my thoughts returned, increasingly suffocating under the weight of impending revelations. My phone buzzed once again, jolting me back into reality. It was Matthias, a simple 1 p.m. at Café Luna, flashing brightly on the screen as if taunting me. What had I unleashed by agreeing to this meeting? A sense of dread settled in the pit of my stomach, twisting like a tight knot. The pieces of my life, those carefully curated fragments of refuge, suddenly felt precarious, as if I was standing on a molten core of uncertainty. Despite the warmth from my earlier encounter and the fleeting lift of spirits, I was still peering into an abyss where everything could change in an instant. The door to my past, barely ajar, was threatening to swing wide open, and with it, an emotional tidal wave I wasn't even remotely prepared for. I needed clarity, but with impending revelations awaited me, I could only brace for the storm brewing on the horizon. The clock on my wall ticked chaotically as the morning sun filtered through my curtains, casting warm golden rays that did little to soothe the turmoil in my chest. I stood in front of the mirror, fingers brushing nervously through my hair, struggling to anchor myself in the reality of the day ahead. I had barely slept, my subconscious replaying scenes from last night, the encouragement from Rosie intertwined with the unsettling anticipation of my meeting with Matthias. That I gathered my strength, pouring a generous cup of coffee that steamed in the crisp morning air. The aroma was usually grounding, but today, it felt like an invitation to set foot into a dragon's den. Would Matthias still hold the same charm that made my heart race, or had time tarnished him into a painful reminder of what once was? With an elongated sigh, I decided to wear something bold, an attempt to armor myself against whatever mood or memory awaited me. I slipped into a deep emerald blouse that complemented my eyes and black jeans, an uncharacteristically daring choice. Sometimes, draping on a confidence might be just the trick to cancel out the noise. The streets buzzed with life as I made my way to Café Luna. On the outside, the morning felt peaceful, but within me, waves of dread rolled violently, battling against the flickers of hope ignited by Rosie's visit. I couldn't shake the inconsistencies of my emotions, the delight at Lily's laughter mingling unsettlingly with the worry about Matthias. As I approached the charming café, its vintage facade and inviting aroma of fresh croissants almost pulled me into its warmth. I spotted Matthias sitting in a corner booth, his expression inscrutable as he glanced out the window. There he was, the enigma in flesh and bone that had haunted my dreams for years. My heart thudded against my ribs, demanding my attention, yet paralyzed by the weight of uncertainty. "Hey," I managed, sliding into the seat opposite him. The moment felt charged, thick with unspoken words that hung heavily in the air. "Thanks for coming," he said, his voice deep and familiar, yet laced with an edge that I couldn't place. His gaze bore into mine, both searching and reflective, stirring old memories I had buried deep. "I wasn't sure I should," I admitted, the honesty spilling out before my mind could filter it. He nodded, and the silence that followed felt heavy, laden with the urgency to breach the topics we both dreaded. Matthias picked at the tablecloth, his demeanor suddenly distant. "She's doing better," he began cautiously, breaking the ice. "I was worried, you know. After everything that happened, I just thought you should be aware." A tightness formed in my throat at the mention of her name. "Thank you for telling me." I was surprised to see her. The warmth of our earlier conversation felt distant, overshadowed by the lingering frost of Matthias' presence. "I wasn't sure if you'd be ready for that." He looked at me earnestly. "I wanted to connect the dots for both our sakes. I know it's not fair to pull you back into our past, but I could sense the tension hanging between us, frayed threads woven into a tapestry of unresolved feelings." "What do you want from me, Matthias?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. "What is it that you think we need to talk about? I thought we were done, I thought we moved on." His gaze darkened, sadness washing over his features as he leaned in closer, whispering as if hiding secrets from those nearby. "I need you to understand that I never stopped caring about you. Not even after everything that tore us apart. I've made some mistakes, but I'm trying to fix them." My breath caught at his admission. The weight of his words was almost unbearable. "Fix them?" I echoed, incredulous. "You think a few coffee dates and apologies can unravel years of pain?" "I know. It's more complicated than that. But, we're both here as if fate is giving us a second chance, and I don't want to waste it," he said, eyes blazing with intensity. I tried to process this, hearing the familiar echoes of my heart whispering with possibility, while also bulldozing through the barriers I had worked so diligently to erect. Just when I thought the storm was subsiding, the thunderclap of emotions surged anew. "I need time to think," I said, pushing my chair back slightly, desperation etched in my tone. "This isn't something I can just jump into." His demeanor shifted, disappointment clashing with the flicker of hope he still held. "I get it, but don't shut me out, please. You can't pretend our history doesn't exist. You might think you've moved on, but the strings of our past can't be cut so easily." Nodding, I felt the prick of tears threaten to spill over. Our past was a gorgon, something I feared, yet couldn't look away from. What if it's for the best? I questioned, my heart heavy with doubt. "Then let us find out together," he said softly. "Let us navigate through the uncharted waters instead of hiding from them." His words hung in the atmosphere like a promise, a flicker of hope against the tempest in my chest. Yet, as that hope began to flourish, another notification from my phone drew me, a harsh reminder of my reality. I glanced down, my heart plummeting at the name that flashed across the screen: Jason. "Matthias, I need to take this." I pulled my phone from the table, feeling it vibrate ominously in my palm. I stood, my heart racing, a sudden sense that the revelations I had feared were just beginning to unravel. "What is it?" Matthias questioned, watching me with concern that I couldn't fathom explaining, and before I could process what was bubbling inside, I answered, "Jason." My voice faded into the confusion of the moment, like dense fog rolling through the valley. I felt Matthias gaze on me, his expression morphing into something that split the air between us, leaving me caught in two worlds: the one I had tried to leave and this inexplicable lure toward something yet unexplored. "Please tell me this isn't what I think it is," Matthias said, rising from his seat. I could only shake my head, fear overtaking logic, as I began the unfolding of a storm I wasn't ready to face, a storm that might just swallow everything whole. As I stepped outside the warm embrace of Café Luna, the cool air smacked against my flushed cheeks, a stark contrast to the heated turmoil simmering inside me. I swiped my thumb across the screen, my heart plummeting further with each moment that passed. Jason's name was a bruise on my psyche, a lingering ghost that manifested with every notification, a reminder of choices I'd made and battles I had lost. "Is everything okay?" Matthias called after me, concern lacing his voice. I could hear the steadiness within him falter, the tender strength slipping away in the face of my imminent crisis. "Just give me a minute," I replied, trying to gather my scattered thoughts as I moved toward a quiet corner of the plaza. I understood that Matthias represented a path I might have been ready to tread, but Jason was a weight, a tether to a life that had been both familiar and increasingly suffocating. The phone call answered on the second ring, puncturing the fragile air of calm I sought to establish. "Hey," my voice came out shakier than intended. "Where are you? I need to talk." Jason's voice had lost the warmth that once wrapped me in comfort. Now, it held a sharp edge, like glass waiting to shatter. "I can't do this right now," I hissed, gripping the phone tightly, as if squeezing the words out of existence. My eyes darted back to Matthias, who remained at the café's entrance, wrestling with something I couldn't yet name. "Why? Because of him?" Jason's tone switched to a thinly veiled accusation. "You're just going to run back into the arms of your little ex-flame? I deserve an explanation, not evasions." "Is that what you think? That I'm running to Matthias?" I exclaimed, frustration boiling up from the pit of my stomach. "This isn't about him, it's about us or what we lost." Silence crackled between us, the weight of our shared regrets looming. I cast a quick glance at Matthias, whose eyes now bore not only concern but also a flicker of anger, and I wondered what he must be thinking. "He's manipulating you, you know that?" Jason continued, determination rising in his voice. "Every time he shows up, he's pulling you back into a past you fought so hard to escape. Sometimes, the past is where we find the lessons we need to move forward," I replied, my heart racing at the unexpected clarity of my words. It felt cathartic yet terrifying to acknowledge. "But I can't even think when you keep dragging me back into this fight. Don't pretend you're ready to let go of what we had." You broke this, Ash. Don't hold me responsible for your choices. His words hung heavily, a slap in the face reminding me of the fracture lines that ran through our history. Anger bubbled beneath the surface, battling with a sense of sorrow I could scarcely contain. I shut my eyes for a moment, listening to nothing but the fast-paced rhythm of my heart. When I opened them, Matthias was still watching, his expression shifting slightly as though he understood the silent war waging on within me. "I'll be waiting," Jason's voice intruded again, colder than before, a finality to his tone that cut so deep I felt the ache in my bones. "You will realize what you've lost. Do you even care?" I whispered, my voice trembling as I ended the call. Sunlight poured over the plaza's vibrant flowers, and the world around me felt oddly untouched, simultaneously bright and dark, just like my emotions. I turned around, bracing myself for the confrontation that I knew awaited me. "Did you really just let him talk to you like that?" Matthias' voice cut through my illusions. His intensity had never wavered, but now it was laced with something deeper. Was it fear for me, or jealousy? "It's complicated," I said, knowing full well that the answer was inadequate. "No, it's not just complicated, it's destructive," he replied, frustration creeping into his tone as he took a step closer. "You deserve more than this endless cycle of pain. Trust me, I know." His concern pierced through my earlier haze of dread, forcing me to confront the reality blaring in my mind. "Matthias, I don't want to keep hurting anyone. This is beyond just you and me. I can't watch you go back to someone who doesn't truly appreciate you," he said, stepping even closer, his sincerity wrapping around me like a lifeline. "You deserve kindness, someone who understands the beauty in your scars." In that moment, I felt the first flicker of hope, a tiny candle struggling against the terrors engulfing me. The warmth emanating from Matthias was intoxicating, sparking something inside I thought had long been extinguished. But before I could fully embrace this frail glimmer, a flurry of movement caught my attention. It was Lily, rushing toward us, her freckles adorning her cheeks like angel's dust, her eyes wide with uncontainable excitement. "Ash, look!" she said breathlessly, her smile brightening the shadows that clouded my heart. "I've been practicing on the piano. I want you to hear." In the chaos of emotions, her innocence cut through, a reminder of why I'd fought against the despair that clung to my very being. But the instant warmth was also overshadowed by the depth of confusion appearing all at once. I found myself leaning more into Matthias, clinging to his grounding presence as Lily continued. "You have to come now." She pulled at my hand, her enthusiasm palpable. I glanced at Matthias, swallowing the weight in my throat. In this moment, the chaos of adulthood seemed to drift away like the clouds, obscuring clarity and important decisions all but for a single heartbeat. Yet just as hope began to weave itself through my heart, another call rattled my phone. Glancing down, I paled as I saw the name flashing across the screen again, an unwelcome reminder colliding with everything I was starting to feel. "What now?" I whispered under my breath. "What's wrong?" Matthias asked, concern etching his features once more. I hesitated, the next move feeling both monumental and impossible. As another message flashed, hinting at secrets I could no longer ignore, I found myself on the precipice of a decision that could change everything, not just for me but for the lives entwined around mine. I need to take this," I finally said, the weight of the choice sinking deep into my chest, the unknown looming over the horizon. And as I walked away, the sound of laughter from Lily echoed in my ears, contrasting sharply with the cold grip of inevitability taking hold of my heart. The phone vibrated with urgency in my palm, an electrifying reminder of the chaos I couldn't escape. Even moments of joy seemed overshadowed by the darkness lurking in my life. I turned my back on Matthias and Lily, each step dragging me towards an unknown abyss that echoed Jason's voice from earlier, a chilling invocation that promised heartache. Steeling myself, I answered. "What now, Jason?" "Ash," he began, but I couldn't let him string me along any longer. "Just say what you have to say." My breath came in weary gasps, fear creeping into the corners of my resolve. I know things are complicated, he said, voice layer upon layer of desperation congealing with a kind of raw honesty that unsettled me. But I found something. You need to hear it. What could possibly be worth all this drama? I shot back, the embers of anger lighting up my chest again. Just meet me. Please, it's important. There's a lot about the divorce and about us that you don't know. His words froze me in my tracks. An avalanche of memories surged forth, laughter, tears, the small moments we shared that I had succumbed to burying. I pressed my hand against the stone wall nearby, grounding myself against breathless uncertainty. I can't. Yes, you can. The intensity in his voice cracked like thunder, drawing me in against my will. Just for one moment, Ash. If it matters to you, it should matter to me. Every fiber of my being screamed to reject the invitation, to run back to Matthias and Lily, but something deep inside wavered, a familiar pulse, a reminder that once we had faced the world together. I was being pulled into a current I couldn't resist, a whirlpool of what could easily become sorrowful nostalgia. Fine. Just give me the time and place, I relented, my voice a hushed whisper, falling into the depths of echoing despair. Tomorrow at the park where we used to meet. I'll explain everything, Jason replied, a touch of relief wrapping around his voice that made my chest ache. I hung up, tears threatening to spill, crossing my arms tightly as if to shield myself from the sudden onslaught of emotions cascading forth. I felt more lost than ever as I turned around, searching for the comforting presence of Matthias, desperate for his steady gaze to untangle the mess within me, but he was gone. I looked around to see Lily wandering near some flowers she'd likely found interesting, but Matthias had stepped away. My heart sank into desolate fathoms, the buoy of hope he had ignited began to dim, drowned by the specter of Jason's influence re-entering my life. Ash! Lily called out, her voice a ribbon breaking through the fog. I glanced over, seeing her still bubbling with youthful exuberance. She ran back to me, clutching a small bouquet of daisies and violets, shyly presenting them like a treasure. These are for you. They made me think of sunshine, she beamed, her innocence a balm against my swirling thoughts. I accepted them, and for a moment, their fragrance enveloped me like a soft embrace. Thank you, Lily. They're beautiful, I said, wishing to feel the light she beamed, wishing to bask in its rays. But even as I smiled, Jason's call lingered, echoing in the halls of my heart. My thoughts consumed me as we drifted back toward the café, the joyful sounds of children's laughter intermingling with my storm of uncertainty. I couldn't shake the feeling of Matthias's absence. What if he returned, only to find me caught again in Jason's tangled web? What if I was dragging Lily further down when she deserved to soar? At that moment, a shadow flitted from the corner of my eye. My breath caught as I turned the last person I expected, my heart fluttering like a trapped bird. It was Jason, standing at the edge of the plaza, his body silhouetted against the sun like a specter from my past. His expression held a mix of yearning and something darker, and my stomach twisted uncontrollably. How much had he seen? How much did he know about my time with Matthias? I blinked, praying it was a mirage brought on by my anxiety. Seconds passed, but he didn't move. Instead, he stood there. Waiting, as though he knew the choices twisting in my heart, a psychic pull urging me toward confrontation. Lily, I whispered, trying to mask my panic as I crouched nearer to her. Could you go find Matthias for me? I think I need him. Okay, she replied, but I could see the hesitation in her eyes. She had seen the strained atmosphere shifting, and I wished to shield her from this storm. As she dashed away, the air thickened as I raised my head, locking eyes with Jason. Frozen in place, I could feel the past stretching out like a fragile thread, a tenuous connection binding us tighter with every beat of my heart. Why are you here? I ventured, fear pooling in the pit of my stomach. I came to warn you, Ash, he said, his voice reverberating with urgency and something else. Fear? Regret? And in that precarious moment, the clarity I had sought dissolved into trembling uncertainty, the air electric with potential heartbreak. The revelations I so desperately needed could either shatter my world or cast light in the darkness. Please, he continued, his eyes searching mine, imploring me to listen. You have to trust me. Trust. That single word hung in the space between us, beckoning me to weave through the fog of doubt lingering in my heart. And as I opened my mouth to respond, a single thought punctured the silence: could this twist of fate lead me to either salvation or despair? My heart raced, trembling on the brink of an irrevocable decision, with outcomes I could barely fathom. The park was almost empty that evening, the light waning as the sky turned an array of soft purples and blues. I shivered, clutching the bouquet Lily had given me tightly, as if it were a lifeline. The position of the sun mirrored my stirring emotions, torn between what was familiar and the looming shadows of the past that Jason's presence had summoned. Pacing in a gentle rhythm, I felt the bouquet's petals brush against my palm, comforting yet surreal. It hadn't even been an hour since I'd seen Matthias, and yet a gulf had formed between us that felt insurmountable. My heart ached at the thought of his trusting smile, especially now that Jason's reappearance threatened to unravel everything I was starting to build. As I lifted my gaze, my breath caught the figure of Jason was closer now. He hesitated at the path's end, his own sorrow etched painfully on his face. For a fleeting moment, I thought of our past, of happiness wrapped in a warm embrace, and I shuddered to envision it being dredged up in the presence of Matthias. Why did I ever agree to meet with him? The decision felt like an anchor dragging me down, but despite my inner turmoil, part of me yearned to hold on to the memories of Jason however complicated our past. Are you okay? He asked, the concern in his voice palpable as he stepped into the halo of fading light. I don't know, Jason. You shouldn't have come. This isn't fair. I struggled to maintain an even tone, but I could feel the tremor in my voice. I'll be honest with you, Ash. I didn't know how else to reach out, he admitted, his eyes reflecting a tumult of regret. But it's really important that you hear what I have to say. It could change everything. Everything. The weight of that word hung heavily between us, I could practically feel it press against my chest. I inhaled deeply, ground myself against the day's turmoil, and reluctantly nodded. Okay, I whispered, anger and fear bubbling beneath the surface but giving way to my own insatiable curiosity. What is it? He glanced around, glances laden with caution and desperation, as if we were hiding from the very ghosts of our shared history. My lawyer found evidence in the divorce papers. There was something Jason, something darker, something he was hiding from both of us, he said, hesitating but then continuing, about the night everything fell apart. My heart raced, memories crashing over me in waves as the night of our separation flickered in my mind. I thought of how fragile everything had been, how little I understood. What do you mean? My voice barely registered a whisper, thin and fragile. That he searched my gaze, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of something beyond himself, an urgency that seemed to beckon me closer, call me to bear witness to the revelations that had been obscured by time. It wasn't just a divorce, Ash. There was a reason Jason acted the way he did, a reason he withdrew. He was covering for something. I recoiled, unable to fathom the implications swirling through his words. What are you saying? You can't just drop that on me. I wish I could be kinder, but I can't afford to lie. There are pieces of the past you don't understand, the connections, the betrayals. They could change everything you know about him, Jason said, his voice firm yet weighed down. And therefore, everything you think you know about yourself. Each word dug deeper into the already open wounds of my heart. The thought of secrets deforming my perception of everything I once held dear was unbearable. But a thread of defiance sparked within me. I needed to know. I had to peel back the layers of confusion and reclaim my truth, no matter how painful it might turn out to be. Tell me everything, I said, my voice trembling but resolute, bearing the weight of unspoken burdens I carried within. Just then, a shadow loomed behind us, the unmistakable silhouette of Matthias against the dimming light. My heart twisted painfully as I braced myself for his reaction, knowing this moment could either bridge the growing gap between us or deepen the chasm. Ash? he called softly, hurt-tinged, with concern swimming in his beautiful eyes as they moved from me to Jason. My breath caught, my feet felt rooted to the ground as I registered the look on Jason's face, an intense mix of realization and dread. I had dragged Jason into the present, and now, standing on the precipice of unraveling our truths, I was also drawing Matthias into a web spun of pain that could ensnare us all. It's not what you think I attempted, but the glare of Matthias' betrayal loomed larger than the day's dwindling light. I had opened a door that might never close. The choices I had made now echoed back, every beat of my heart pulsating with the unpreparedness of the emotions tangled around us like a net drawing tighter. In this moment, we were all at the mercy of the past's unfolding secrets, and as Matthias took a step closer, his expression unraveling into confusion and distrust, I realized that the road ahead held unimaginable heartache, one I might not be strong enough to face, and as uncertainty curled around us, I could feel the weight of what was left unsaid, wrapping around my heart like a noose tightening with each breath. Who would I lose tonight? What truth would tear us apart more, our past or the lies that still lingered like leftover shadows? The air tinged with anxiety as the reality of my choice bore down on me, pressuring me to either shatter or heal, and all I could do was wait, hold my breath, wondering who would emerge unscathed or irrevocably broken. Every moment is a choice, a defining line drawn in the sand, and standing in that park between Jason and Matthias felt like I had crossed a threshold I could never step back from. I held my breath, my heart racing, tethered to the reality of their presences and the mess I had unwittingly unleashed. Jason's eyes were searching, pleading, as if each word he'd said just moments ago hung in the air, steeped in confusion, and now it felt fractured. You have to trust me, he repeated, but the urgency in his voice felt like shackles slowly tightening around me. And I realized, with a streak of clarity amidst the chaos, that I had built these shackles myself, heavy chains wrought from fear and doubt, from love that had become a battlefield. Jason, what could you possibly say that would change everything? My voice came out stronger than I felt, daring to break through the fissures of uncertainty. I need to know. His gaze flickered to Matthias, who was rooted in place, hurt evident in his body language, and in that split moment, I saw the shadows of their shared history looming above us, offering neither comfort nor resolution. There are things I've kept from you, Ash, things about the divorce, about what really happened that night. Things that I don't think you'll ever understand unless you hear it from me. I stepped forward, drawn to him despite my better judgment, needing to uncover the layers of deception. Just say it. What was so important that you couldn't share it? Just like that, the air shifted with an urgency that felt electric. I noticed Matthias shift slightly, frustration radiating off him in waves, a stark contrast to Jason's vulnerability. Silence enveloped us as I held my breath, waiting for the revelation to surface. Jason's shoulders dropped, resignation washing over him as he began. I was scared, Ash. Scared of not being enough. But it wasn't just about our marriage falling apart, there were deeper issues. There were things our families didn't want us to know. Things about secrets that he kept from both of us. Who? I pressed, now teetering on the edge of anger and confusion. Your husband, Mark. Jason's voice was trembling now, layered with regret. He had debts, dangerous ones tied to people from his past. I had to protect you, Ash. When I found out everything he had hidden, I panicked. It drove a wedge deeper than just our love, it fractured the trust between us all life's stability hinges upon. The world tilted beneath me, memories swirling, Mark's charisma, the laughter that echoed in our once happy home, the love that felt unbreakable. It had all shattered in one calculation of fate. I felt a cruel pang twist inside me, like a knife cutting away the fabric of my reality. What are you saying? That I don't know why I left? That my decisions weren't my own? No, no. I couldn't let you be part of that illusion, he rushed to explain, hands shaking in exasperation. You would find out eventually, but I thought if I kept you away, I was protecting you. And by the time I realized I lost you, it was too late. Matthias' voice broke through the haze as he stepped closer, his eyes glistening with something deeper than just concern. This isn't just about him, it's about you, Ash. Remember why you left all the pain wrapped in the chaos of your relationship. But Jason interjected, calling out to me, desperate. Please, you have to consider the truth. You deserve the full story for your life, for your healing. Mark got himself entangled with the wrong sort of people, and I didn't want to draw you into that mess. I thought I was helping, but I only pushed you away when you needed the truth. A well of emotions surged within me, anger intertwined with sorrow as pieces of my heart began to unravel. So you thought lying to me would save me? My voice echoed harshly, time twisting as I stepped back, enveloped by a spiraling realization. You thought keeping me away from him, from the truth, was your way of holding me close? His eyes dropped, shame painting his features, yet I felt the sheer weight of all I had endured threading into clarity. What about us? What about our love? Did it even matter to you that I deserved to know? I loved you, Ash, more than I dared admit. That's why I did what I did, Jason whispered. You've always had a choice, but I took yours away in fear. In that moment, the chasm between us felt too vast to bridge. I could see how time had carved our lives into jagged remnants of hurt, love twisted by selfishness and fear. My heart grappled with his confession, a truce for the battles waged in the unseen battlefield of my mind. But Jason's truths weren't only echoes ghosting my past, they glimmered with pain clawing at my future. Everything is so messed up, I breathed, voice shaking as I fought against the tears that threatened to break free, my heart splitting under the weight of the tapestry woven from betrayal, love, and loss. Matthias stepped forward once more, grounding me, his presence a flicker of light amidst the growing shadows. You are stronger than this. You have the power to reclaim your life, to break free of the spirals. As I looked at him, the tension between us electric with unspoken possibility, I felt the chains loosen, a new path stretching out before me, a canvas waiting for my brushstrokes. I would carve my own narrative free from the confines of secrecy and pain, because now, standing here among echoes of truth, I understood something vital. I won't be defined by your secrets, Jason, I said firmly. The road ahead is mine to navigate, without your shadow looming over me. My choices, my past no longer belong to you. In that moment, I witnessed the flicker of appreciation cross Matthias' expression, and somehow it felt transformational, a promise spawning from ashes of regret that dared granting me wings. With each word I spoke, I felt more liberated from the tangled web of our hearts. I wanted to reclaim my essence. My heart thrummed wildly as I continued, and Mark? I won't let thy ghosts bind me into submission. I will seek closure I need to, for my own peace. Jason's face fell in that instant, the surge of realization sending a quiver of despair through him as I waved goodbye to our past. I hope you find what you're looking for, he whispered, tangible sadness coloring his voice as I turned my back on him for good, no longer held hostage by the decisions sown from fear. Then there came a silence, a stillness that filled the air as I faced Matthias. All those emotions swirling around me came crashing together. How could I step boldly into the unknown? But amidst the swirling clouds of uncertainty, a light surfaced. Can we start anew? I asked him, my voice softer but colored with hope. Free of the past, of the shadows trailing behind? A small, soft smile spread across his face. I would like that more than anything, he said, the sincerity of his words wrapping around me like an embrace. And as I stood there, grounded, amidst the remnants of who I once was and the promise of who I could become, I realized one unbreakable truth: no matter how stormy the tides of life appear, within me lies the power to navigate through to brighter shores. I turned my gaze to the horizon, a radiant palette igniting the skies, illuminating the way toward a warmth and clarity that I so desperately craved. There, in the unfolding future, would craft my own story, one of resilience and rebirth, and I vow to let my heart dance again free and unburdened. With each new dawn, I would raise my cup, healing tea warming my spirit, and when I looked back at this chapter of my life, it would not be defined by the secrets I kept or the lives I lost, but by the strength it took to eclipse the shadows that had once surrounded me. And with that promise echoed firmly within me, the final line remained clear, shining like a beacon: I am more than my past, I am courage, and I will not be afraid.